All right, hello again. We have spent a few of our lessons talking about livestock and crops, but we've been focusing more on the last few just in our livestock. So today we are talking about cattle or cows in Iowa, and we are going to talk about both beef and dairy cows. So we'll get to this in just a second. Some of you notice what that is. You already know how to use it, but we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to start with a little bit of a quiz. Now, some of you might have a card that looks like mine. So if you do, you're going to use this to answer questions. So if I said that it is July, that is false. So you'd cover up false. That's not the right answer. We are recording this in June. So if I said it's June, for me, that is true. Okay, so I would cover that answer. We also have a couple cows on this card. At the top, you see this Black Angus cow, and that's a beef cow. Beef cattle are shorter. If we had two of these standing together, you would see that this one is shorter with more muscle. But this dairy cow at the bottom, they are typically taller. They have a little less muscle, and we'll talk about the reason for that. So you might answer true or false. You might answer by covering up a cow. Okay, if you don't have this card, your teacher maybe already gave you directions on how to answer, or you can pause right now and get those directions. So we're going to ask a few questions. We'll give you the answers shortly as we go through them. Okay, I'm going to give you our answer card. Here's our first question. Can you show me, so cover a cow or write down beef or dairy, show me which cattle produce dairy products like milk, butter, and cheese? Okay, so those dairy cows, the tall one at the bottom. In this picture, that's a Holstein cow. A lot of the dairy cattle in Iowa are black and white Holsteins like this one, and they are known for producing a lot of milk. Next question. Show me which cattle produce beef products like ground beef and steak. Okay, so those are our beef cattle. They have more muscle, and so that muscle is what we use to produce meat, and from a cow, that meat is beef. True or false? Cattle are ruminants with 7 compartments in their stomach.
7?
7.
I'm going to say false.
That is false. Part of that was true. They are ruminants, but a ruminant does not have 7 parts in its stomach. It has 4. We'll talk a little more about that stomach later. People only have 1 part. We are called something completely different. We're a monogastric. A cow is a ruminant. So they have 4 parts in their stomach. It's like little compartments that we'll look at. Next one. True or false? In Iowa, we only have beef cattle. That's false. We have both of them in Iowa. All 50 states have cattle, and in Iowa, every single one of our 99 counties has cattle. I don't know that they all have beef and dairy. They would probably all have beef, but we do have both in Iowa. Next question. True or false? Cattle can eat forage like grass and hay.
That is definitely true.
Okay, next one. True or false? Cattle can eat silage. Can you tell us what silage is? What do we chop for that?
Yeah. Silage is the first corn that's going to come out of the field in the fall time. They're going to go out with a silage chopper to chop the corn. They're going to take the whole stalk. They're not going to just take the ear. They're not going to waste any part of it. They're going to take that whole stalk and chop it into little pieces and then put it into a bunker or which is just a place to hold the feed. Yep. Or a pile, or maybe a bag. They'll put it in a big bag and store it there. So that's silage, and cows love to eat their silage.
And if you want to look more, Mrs. Wagner did a video. She interviewed her brother and her dad who feed cattle. And so you can see that video on our YouTube channel. Teachers, you can find it on our website. And you can see them feeding all of their cattle in the feedlot.
Yep.
Let's keep moving. A few more questions. 2 more. True or false? All cattle are mammals who produce milk for their young.
True.
true, the females. So even though we only drink milk from dairy cattle, when a beef cow has a baby, she produces milk for her calf, but they don't produce as much, and so humans don't drink it. Dairy cattle produce a lot of milk, and so there's excess that can be sold for humans. Last question. This should be easy. Show me which cattle produce milk that humans drink.
Ooh.
I gave away the answer in that one. So our dairy cattle. Okay. So we're going to talk a little.
Shirley Schrader, and I am an Iowa farmer. We are standing in front of our newest addition to our farm. This cattle building was built last summer. It holds about 300 head of cattle. Tony and I farm in northwest Iowa. We also farm with our sons, Andy and Ryan, and they're both married, so we are truly a family farm. Andy, Jackie, and Kira, and Ryan and Kayla and Caden, and Scott and Nick all farm with us. We were blessed to get to farm with my father-in-law for almost 40 years. And we are a family farm. So we're going to take you on a quick tour of our farm so you have a little bit of idea what a family farm is. Like I said, this is our new cattle barn. We have about 300 head of cattle in here. They come in weighing about 800 pounds and they go out weighing about 1,300 or 1,400 pounds. So next time you go somewhere and you have a great steak or a burger, or you put some lipstick on, or you kick a football, what you're using to eat and the products you're using could have come from the Schrader farm.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Scott Toms. We're here at Plymouth Dairy Farms, and as you can see behind me here, we're out in the cow barn. Here at Plymouth Dairy Farms, we milk 3,200 cows 3 times a day. We have babies born every day. We have 12 to 14 babies born every day at the farm. All of our milk that we produce here at Plymouth Dairy Farms goes to Wells Blue Bunny to be made for ice cream, the fun treat for everybody to have. On our farm on a daily basis, there's a lot of activities. We're milking the cows, we're feeding the cows, we're taking very good care of the cows. As you can see over my shoulder, the cows just got fed here, so they're just having something to eat. It's kind of like breakfast for the cows here this morning. Cows are very calm and quiet. A dairy cow is. As you can see, they're just standing there eating, enjoying the day.
And we're going to move to this Venn diagram, and you hopefully maybe have this page too where there's one here. So if you're not familiar with a Venn diagram, you see 2 big circles, but in the middle they overlap. So what we use this for is talking about how 2 things are the same and how they're different. So in these big circles, we talk about how 2 things are different. So we have one circle that's all about those beef cows, okay? We have the other circle that is only about dairy cows. So on the outside, we'll see how they're different. In the middle, where our 2 circles come together, we talk about what those cows have the same. How are they similar? We're going to start with our beef cattle, and I will fill in the answers you need here. So if we start, number 1 is already filled in. I'm just going to put a line. We don't need anything there. And it says beef cattle have more muscle. That's just how their bodies grow. When they eat silage and forage, grass and hay and corn, their body uses those nutrients to grow muscle, and that muscle produces the meat we eat. Okay, number 2. It says beef cattle produce blank products. Okay, what do we call that meat?
That is beef.
Beef products.
Yep.
What are some examples of beef products?
Hamburger, steak,
roast is one
roast.
People forget.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
those
do
are kind of the main ones. So like ground beef that you use for tacos or sloppy joes or hamburgers, spaghetti. You eat a lot of beef whether you have considered that or not. Okay. Last one for beef cattle says beef cattle look different than dairy cattle. They are more muscular and they're shorter.
They're shorter. Your dairy cows are going to be taller and leaner.
Okay. Let's talk about those dairy cattle. And Mrs. Wagner is going to fill those in.
Yep. So, dairy cattle produce what products? Like ice cream. What kind of products do they produce?
They give us dairy products. So some of those products might be cheese, milk, cottage cheese, yogurt. All of those things are dairy products. Anything we make from milk. Okay.
Number 2, dairy cattle are taller and leaner. We just talked about that as we were talking about the beef cattle being shorter. Number 2 is already filled in for you. So dairy cattle are taller and leaner. And number 3, dairy cattle live closer to the milking parlor. Your beef cows, they're going to be out in the pasture during the summer, and they're going to be in the yard, in the feedlot during winter, and then in the spring, your beef cows are going to be close to the barn when they calve, but then they're going to go back out to the pasture. So, but your dairy cattle, they're going to be getting milked twice a day, so they need to be closer to the milking parlor.
And some farmers milk those cows 3 times a day if they have enough
milk.
milk.
I always
That's
say
up to the
2
farmer.
times.
2 or 3.
It can be 3.
Yep. So that just kind of depends on how much time they have to do that. Now, those are some differences. The biggest differences are what we get from them, but in the middle, they really have a lot in common. So if we look at number 1, all cattle have something on their ear, and actually other livestock do also. Sheep have this. Some pigs, kind of depends on the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
They wear something on their ear that's like a name tag. Do you have one?
I sure do. It's right here. So all cattle have ear tags, and this is a way of identification. So the first, number 1 in the both column is tags. All right.
We can show that.
I was just going to say,
Yep.
Is that one you want me to do?
Go ahead.
Yep. So today, what I have with me here is an cow ear, all right, with my ear tag.
Is that a real ear?
This is not a real
It's
ear.
upside down.
It's a rubber ear.
There you go. There you go. So it would be on the cow like this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's a rubber ear, and I'm going to show you that with this ear tag, this is a means of identification. So each cow and each calf, when they have a baby, is going to have a matching ear tag. So when 561 has her calf is going to have the same ear tag, and they get that put on them right after they're born so that we know who is with who. So when this cow comes through a head gate, okay, we're going to put our ear tagger right here. If you want to hold the ear, yep. And we click it together, and it pulls off. Now, the front part has the number. The back part has the button. This is the part that holds it on there, okay? So they're not going to lose that. This is weatherproof. It has a nice big number so that we can see from quite a ways away. Of course, sometimes they get dirty, but for the most part, this is our best way of identification, knowing which cow is which.
And I know this kind of sounded like it hurts and it looks painful, but it's really a lot like an earring.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you have your ears pierced, you know that it hurts for that second, okay? It just hurts for that second, but now does it hurt? No. Just like this ear. It's not going to hurt this cow.
Awesome. Yep. Number 2 is filled in for us. We don't need to write. And it says...
Number 2, all cattle are ruminants with 4 compartments in their stomachs. You had touched on that a little bit earlier with the 4 compartments.
So if you look at the back, you might have this picture, and if not, just check mine out. This is an illustration of a cow, and you can see there's 5 arrows because over here the intestine, that's part of the digestive system, but not a stomach part. There are 4 other parts. Now, cattle can eat things we can't. You and I can't eat field corn unless it's been processed and put into other foods. We can't eat soybean meal for the same reason. But we can't eat grass. But cattle can eat all of those things because their body can digest it, and ours just can't, simply put, okay? I'm going to show you how that food travels. Some of you might have a tool, or follow through with your finger if you've got this picture. I have a magnet that I'm going to drag through my cow's mouth here. It looks like a bite of grass. So, as cattle eat, their food goes into their rumen. It's the big one at the top. The rumen is full of little bacteria that start to break down that food into smaller pieces. Then it moves down to the reticulum, this little one. And the reticulum has rough edges Those edges will break the food apart into smaller pieces that we call cud. If you've ever seen cattle or sheep, they're both ruminants. If you've seen them eat, you know that their cud comes back to their mouth. So their food comes back up and they
regurgitate it.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They use their powerful back teeth to keep chewing that into smaller pieces. And when they swallow it again, it goes down into the omasum. The omasum absorbs a lot of water and a lot of nutrients, and the food keeps going to this little one called the abomasum. That is the most like your stomach and mine. There's stomach acid in there that finishes breaking the food apart so that all the nutrients can be absorbed. Then that food goes through the intestines, so it soaks up all the extra nutrients, and all the extra food is stored until there's enough to pass as manure. Okay, and that manure is used on our Iowa fields to keep our crops growing more. So you noticed that it goes through all 4 of those parts and breaks down really small. Our stomach could never do that to grass or corn, and you would just feel really sick if you tried to eat much of those things. Okay, let's look back at the middle. There's one more thing these animals have in common, these beef and dairy cattle. It says both kinds of cattle are raised on farms in my favorite state.
Yay,
Iowa.
Iowa. Iowa, I-O-W-A.
Don't forget your capital
I. Yep.
Okay, so we do have both beef and dairy cattle here in Iowa, and we talked about some of the products we get from them. Your teachers have an activity that they may or may not ask you to do with your own Venn diagram. So hopefully you remember that we've got differences on the outside and similarities in the middle. Okay, have a great day, and hopefully you have some new information. Next time you see those cattle in Iowa, you know a little bit more about what they're being raised for.